Having trouble in M+, it might not be because you're a bad player. It might just be that you don't have the right information. And how do you get that information, you might ask? With add-ons, of course. I've compiled a list of the most important add-ons you need to be successful on your M+ journey. Before you can even do an M+, you need to get into a group, and the default group finder leaves a lot to be desired. You can only really search for the dungeon and the difficulty, but with pre-made group finder you can get so much more. If you're trying to target specific dungeons that will increase your M+ score the most, you can just tick the boxes and then search for the key level you want. If you're a class with Lust, you can look for groups that still need it. If you're in a party, you can search for groups that can accommodate all of you and so much more. There's also an advanced search feature where you can input a custom search string if you so wish. Angry Keystones replaces the default timer and adds markers that clearly indicate whether the key is going to be a +3, 2, or 1. Alongside that, it also displays party deaths and how many seconds that lost you, so that you can yell at your teammates while secretly knowing you're the problem. The next add-on I basically use for one reason, and I think it's enough to include it in this list. Method Raid Tools is mostly used for raid and more specifically raid leaders. And yes, it has a lot of useful things, like checking what buffs the raiders have, notes that everyone can see, a convenient bar for raid markers. All I need is the little icons that show up on ReadyCheck notifying me if I'm missing any buffs. I can't tell you the amount of times I had to sit down, mid-dungeon, to chow down on some gourmet eggs, or to chug a quick flask of questionable contents. And the higher you get in M+, the more important every little drop of damage you can get becomes. So if you don't want to be the asshole who didn't time the key because they forgot to use the flask, food buff and weapon buff, install this add-on. Unlike Method Raid Tools, Mythic Dungeon Tools, as you might have guessed from the brilliant name, is actually designed for Mythic Dungeons. The add-on is used by tryhards who have way too much time to meticulously plan the most optimized route you have ever seen, that they then never have the courage to link in chat because they have social anxiety. I mostly just use it to look up different mobs in each pack, and even bosses for that matter, and look up what their abilities do and identify the ones that are really problematic and prepare for them. The add-on gives you a nice 3D model of the NPC along with its name, location in the dungeon and key abilities. It is nice that the tool can show you how much % each pack will give you, and yes, you can plan routes this way, but I think most players just aren't ever going to use it for that. This mostly comes into play at the higher end, and even then I'm not sure how many people are actively creating new routes. Well, maybe the MDI teams, but none of them are watching this video. All the add-ons for now have been optional. From this moment on, they're all non-negotiable. You absolutely need deadly boss mods or bigwigs and their dungeon equivalents. Having some information or warning that a mob is casting a spell in a cone in front of it, that there is an ability that needs to be kicked, that you have to soak something, hell, even having timers showing you when different mechanics are going to be happening is something I can no longer live without. Honestly, I tried doing some M+ without them and I felt naked. I think I got through them only because I've played them enough to where I knew the mechanics, but even then it's much easier to be able to plan ahead or to have a nice lady remind you that something serious is about to happen and that you need to start paying attention and stop looking at your damage meter. You're in last place anyway, buddy. Chill out. However, all this information comes at a cost, and the cost is having to set up the UI and maybe even disabling some abilities. The default placement choices for DBM are questionable to say the least. While I agree that having such vital information near the center of the screen is important, I would still rather prefer to see my character and anything in the near vicinity. Take your time and adjust where everything is placed, test it out and then adjust some more. Don't be afraid to tinker with this until you get it just right. And yes, really do take the time because this will become habitual and it's a lot harder to unlearn a bad habit than it is to build a good one from the beginning. This is why I also suggest using the Mythic Dungeon tools discussed earlier and going through all the mobs and their abilities and disabling callouts for the ones that don't matter to you and maybe even adding some special callouts. For example, if you're a hunter, you can add a callout for when a mob enrages so that you can soothe it. If you're a mage, you can get a callout every time there is a good ability for you to spell steal. At the very least, you should disable callouts and notifications that don't matter to you, because information overload is a very real thing and when it happens, you start to ignore all of the information, even the useful kind. While all of the previous add-ons were tied to something specific, like information about mob abilities, dungeon layouts, routes and so forth, WeakAuras allows you to set up information about literally anything. Wanna know when you're not buffed by something you should be? Wanna know when to cast a dot that is about to expire on the boss? Wanna see your resources and all of your important cooldowns right in the center of your screen? Wanna see in which direction you're gonna spit out fire tornadoes from your ass so that you can avoid launching them at your friends? It literally has it all. Its UI and settings are a bit nonsensical, but most people just import whatever aura they like from waglio.io. I do encourage you to play around with setting up your own aura, if for nothing else, just to be even more amazed about the dedication of people posting them online for free. I would absolutely recommend any WeakAuras that shows you your class resources and a dungeon pack for the current season. The personal resource and cooldown display is just excellent and improves your gameplay by just showing you all of your cooldowns where you're looking at most of the time. The dungeon pack has dungeon and FX specific information that is particularly important to know about, like for example showing how many bursting stacks are on you, or telling you that your current target is standing in sanguine, so for the love of God, please don't immobilize it. Again, you should customize the positions of these to where you want to see them. For the M+ Mega Pack there is usually an anchor node, so be sure to move that and nothing else so that you don't accidentally mess anything up. Getting your hands on this much power for the first time can drive you mad, but I encourage you to resist the urge to install every aura known to man. Keep in mind the information overloads discussed earlier, keep it minimal and only add the ones you need when you need them. And now, for the most important, the bestest, the most useful, can I get a round of applause for Plater? Yeah, that's right, the most useful WoW add-on for M+ just replaces the default nameplates. Oh, but it doesn't do just that, you can also color code them. Pretty swanky. But no, seriously, color coding enemies by which ones need to be focused, which ones need to be interrupted, and which ones need to be stunned or stopped somehow is huge. It takes such a mental load off from you from needing to remember this by the names of enemies alone. Maybe some top tier M+ players can do it, but I surely can't. Just give me the bright flashy colors instead. It doesn't just end there. Plater gives you the options to customize absolutely everything. You can make nameplates bigger, smaller, transparent, add weird borders, change color if the mobs are attacking you. Most importantly, you can stack them vertically so that you can actually see all of them, display debuffs next to the nameplates instead of on top of them to gain even more clarity, and add special effects to enrages you can soothe, abilities you can dispel. Again, there are absolutely endless possibilities, and as with WeakAuras before, you can just import a profile and be done with it if you don't want to fuss around too much. But while it might be daunting, I do encourage you to play around with it and get a feeling for all of the settings. Much of WoW can be made a lot easier with the right information being displayed at the right time. And it does kinda suck that Blizzard expects players to get this information into the game from third-party sources instead of adding it in themselves. The list of add-ons here is by no means exhaustive, but it does highlight a few of the more important ones. Taking the time to install them and configuring them so that they work for you will surely up your Mythic Plus game tenfold, and will make the game that much more enjoyable for you. Happy configuring. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any more suggestions or feel as though I missed an add-on, leave a reply in the comments. If you liked the video, consider liking it, and if you like my content, consider subscribing. Thanks again for watching, I'll see you next time.